Hello students, so welcome back to today's chemistry class. So we will start with the chapter 5 of your chemistry syllabus, okay, and the chapter name is states of matter. Now when you listen to this word states of matter, the first thing which pops into your mind is the three states, the solid, liquid as well as gas. Now basically let me tell you what are we going to study in this chapter first, and then later we will move on with in detail, okay. So here in the previous classes or previous chapters you have been studying about the microscopic particles. You started with the structure of atom, the discovery of protons, neutrons, all these microscopic particles, right? And later on I have also used a term which is called the association of molecules. Now for example, if you take the example of water, that is H2O, wherein two atoms of hydrogen have combined with one atom of oxygen, right? So this particular water, if I just take one molecule of water, I am talking about one particular molecule, okay, and if I place it in my palm, is it going to wet my palm? Does it have a wetting property? No, right? One molecule of water, one single molecule of water can't do anything. But if I just take a glass of water and pour it into my palm, obviously it shows the wetting properties, right? So here you see that the difference between one single molecule of water and many number of molecules of water. Now many number of molecules of water, which means that there many number of H2Os are associated with each other, or these have some force of attraction. Many number of water molecules have some force of attraction, and due to that they will show their own property, whereas one molecule of H2O doesn't. So in this chapter we will basically talk about the bulk properties of matter. Okay, now what do you mean by bulk properties? That means there are many number of molecules. Okay, it is not one single molecule. Got it? So here let me talk about water more. Now if you try boiling one single molecule of water, just H2O, does it boil? No. But if you take a beaker of water which consists of many number of water molecules, obviously it starts boiling. You see the bubbles coming up, which means that boiling is a bulk phenomenon. Bulk phenomenon in the sense there are many number of water molecules. As well as when you talk about this bulk property, you usually see that there are some changes in their states. Now ice, if you take, that is the water in the solid state, then you have liquid, which is nothing but water, and in the gaseous state you have steam. So here the chemical is nothing but water itself, but their physical properties, you see that they can exhibit different state in a particular, with respect to a particular temperature as well as pressure. So changes in temperature as well as pressure can change their states too, but all of them have water itself, that is H2O itself, but they have different arrangement of atoms taking place, right? So this may be due to temperature as well as pressure rules. Okay, so this is about the basic idea of these association of molecules and the way they can arrange themselves in different states. That's why we talk about this chapter, that is states of matter. Okay, now as you all know, these states of matter, mainly there are three, that is solid, liquid and gas. Totally there are five. The fourth one is plasma and the last one is Bose-Einstein condensate, BEC. Now let's talk about generally the solid, liquid as well as gaseous state. Now when you talk about solids, they have a definite shape as well as definite volume, right? So they are rigid in nature, they say. So they have a particular shape as well as particular volume too. Why? Because these particles are said to be tightly packed in nature, so they get a particular shape and volume and they are rigid in nature. Now why these are tightly packed? The main thing is due to the intermolecular forces. Now what do you mean by intermolecular forces? They are the attractive or maybe repulsive, anything, okay, between the atoms or molecules or particles. That is the intermolecular forces. So solids are rigid in nature or the atoms are tightly packed because their intermolecular forces are said to be very strong. That's why they are held tightly. But if in case of liquid, how about the intermolecular forces then? It is said to be slightly weaker when compared to solids, and that's why the atoms will be loosely packed when compared to solids. Okay. So here, what about the interparticle space between each or the atoms or molecules, children? Here the interparticle space will be very less. They are tightly bound because of high intermolecular forces of attraction. So if you talk about liquids, they have an indefinite shape but a particular volume. If you take 10 ml of water in a glass and then if you try pouring it to a beaker, obviously the volume will remain same, that is 10 ml itself, but it takes the shape of the container. So if it is poured into a glass, it will take the shape of the glass. If it is poured into beaker, it takes the shape of the beaker. So they have a definite volume but they have indefinite shape. And intermolecular forces, as I said, they will be weaker when compared to solids, slightly weaker, so they are loosely packed. Talking about gases, for example, you have oxygen gas. They do not have a definite volume or they don't have a definite shape, right? So they are freely packed, they are loosely packed. Okay, so here the intermolecular forces are said to be really weak when compared to solid as well as liquid. Okay, and how about the interparticle space? They have a large interparticle space. That's why they scatter around, they move around randomly. Okay, so this is the basic idea or the properties between the solid, liquid and the gas. Lastly, the fourth state of matter is nothing but the plasma, wherein the ionized particles produces light. There are charged particles which produces light. For example, you have it in stars. Okay, all these are plasma state, and then you have Bose-Einstein condensate, wherein the gases of very low density are cooled to a supercooling state. Okay, so that is a basic idea of the plasma as well as BEC. In this chapter, we will mainly focus on the liquid as well as gaseous state. So you will be studying the various properties or the arrangement of the atoms based on liquid as well as gaseous state, especially gaseous state. About solid state you will be studying in your second year chapters. Okay. So that is about the introduction of this particular chapter, that is states of matter. So mainly talking about the bulk properties of matter as well as the physical laws which govern these states. Okay, the properties, all these will be studying in this chapter. Now, as I told that in the gaseous state, the intermolecular forces are said to be really less. Okay. Now, coming back to the example of water. Water, as I told, one particular molecule of water cannot wet your hand, but instead, if the association of many number of water molecules, they can wet your hand. Now, H2O, that is bulk property in the sense there are many number of water molecules present. There are many H2Os present. Only those can show the property. Now, here if H2O, all these water molecules has to show some properties, there should be some force of attraction between these molecules too, right? Correct? If it has to act like a bulk medium, obviously they should have some forces of attraction between themselves. So that they are, okay, they show the property of water, they show the property of ice, they show the property of steam. Why? Because they accumulate themselves. How? By some force. That is what I told about the intermolecular force. So intermolecular forces can be attractive forces too, they can be repulsive forces too. Between whom? Between the atoms or particles or molecules. So that is mainly we are focusing on right now. So the intermolecular forces, what are those? They are the attractive or repulsive forces. Okay, so they are attractive or repulsive forces between the atoms, molecules or the particles. Okay, so between the atoms and molecules. So these are nothing but the intermolecular forces which makes them a bulk medium. Or you just remember the word association of molecules. So why is this association of molecules? There is some force of attraction, and that force is nothing but intermolecular force. Now these intermolecular forces, children, they can be happening in the non-polar molecules too. or there may be noble gas atoms wherein there is some intermolecular force between themselves. Okay. Now intermolecular force, obviously polar molecules are what? Polar molecules are the ones which will unequally share their electrons. So two poles are present. That means one has to be positive, the other one has to be negative in nature. Right? So there are two poles formed there. Obviously if there is charges formed, there is force of attraction. But non-polar in the sense they equally share their electrons. For example, you have hydrogen gas, chlorine, then you have oxygen. All these share their electrons equally. So if you take here, two atoms of hydrogen are present wherein they share equally one electron each and form a bond. So these are polar, they share their electrons equally. So these are the polar molecules. Or if you take the example of noble gas atoms, maybe neon, argon, all these will also exhibit slightly intermolecular forces. Okay. So basically these intermolecular forces between these non-polar or these noble gas atoms, these are said to be the weakest forces in nature. Okay. So these weakest forces in nature, okay, this theory was given by a scientist named Johann van der Waals. Okay, and that's why these weak forces were called as van der Waals forces. Okay, so van der Waals forces are said to be the weakest forces between whom? Between the noble gas atoms or the non-polar molecules. Okay, so this is one of the forces which we will be studying in this chapter, van der Waals forces. Now, these forces, okay, can be formed due to various type of interactions. Now, interactions in the sense maybe between a non-polar molecule and a non-polar molecule, maybe between polar molecules, okay, or maybe between noble gases, or one may be polar, one may be non-polar. So, these type of interactions are possible. So, these intermolecular forces are formed due to various types of interactions. So, you will be studying one by one which are the types of interactions. Okay. So, there are 4 types of interactions which we will be studying. So, as I said, these intermolecular forces can be exhibited due to various types of interactions between the polar molecules or the non-polar molecules or the noble gases atoms. Okay. So, here there are various types of interactions. Mainly there are 3 types of interactions, starting with the first one, that is dispersion or London forces. And the second one is dipole-dipole forces, and the third one is dipole-induced dipole forces. Okay. Now, let's talk about it one by one. The first one, that is dispersion or London forces. Now, this particular force was identified by a scientist named Fritz London. Okay. And this is said to be the weakest forces in nature. As I told, these are the van der Waals forces. They are said to be the weakest forces in nature. So, how does this work? Consider you have 2 noble gas atoms. Suppose let's name this as A and B. Okay. Now you know that each atom will have electrons moving around the nucleus. So the movement or the electron charge cloud is said to be symmetrical in nature. Both of them will be symmetrical. Okay, the electrons will be moving symmetrically in each of these atoms. Okay. Now the movement of electrons can be all around the nucleus. Imagine at a point of time, okay, in a fraction of seconds, imagine these electrons, whichever was present in this particular atom, that is A, okay, has come to the right hand side. Maybe they are concentrated onto the right hand side of this particular atom at a point of time. It should be instant. Okay, it is very quick in a fraction of seconds. Imagine that all the electrons have come towards the right hand side, that is this side. Okay. Now what happens there? Here the concentration of electrons will be less, right? Now what happens due to the electron charge density? The density of the electrons have come toward one side of this atom and the other side doesn't have much of electrons. So what happens there? Obviously there is a charge developed. Charge is developed there. Partial charges are being developed towards one side of the atom. Now here what kind of charge will be present if the electrons are concentrated towards the right hand side? There is a partial negative charge. So these partial charges are denoted by the symbol that is delta. Okay, so that delta is given in the symbol. So here, as these have developed a partial negative charge towards the right hand side, and here you have a partial positive charge towards the left hand side. Now what happens to the symmetry of that particular atom and the distribution of electrons? Obviously it gets distorted. Distorted in the sense, the symmetry of that particular atom has changed to something like this. As there is development of partial positive and negative charges, they have distorted themselves and they have become unsymmetrical right now. Correct? But now you have another atom which is in contact, which is in less contact with the atom A. So as this has developed a partial negative charge and positive charge, this has a particular force of attraction, okay, and it tries distorting the other atom too. Okay, so what happens here, as there is negative charge, so this tries to distort this atom, and obviously there is positive charge which is formed over this side, and the electron density will be more towards the other side. So this is how the atom A distorts the atom B. So you see that a dipole is being created at an instant. It is said to be instantaneous dipole. Instantaneous in the sense, at a short span of time, very quickly, within a fraction of seconds, you see that the electrons have come towards one side, and then there is partial positive charges formed and the partial negative charge formed, and this distorts the other atom too, and both become unsymmetrical in nature. That is the force between these two, and these are the dipoles which are formed, and these are called instantaneous dipole. Okay, so here they both have induced dipoles for themselves. Induced in the sense, they have produced dipole. There was nothing, there was no other force which was interacting from the other side. These were the atoms which had the distortion of their symmetry of these electrons. So this is how the dipole is being formed. Okay, and these dipole forces are said to be the weakest forces. And as this was developed by a scientist named Fritz London, this was given the name London forces, or this is also called dispersion forces. Okay. Now this particular force, imagine if these two atoms were really close to each other, obviously the force would have been more. But imagine if the atoms were placed far away from each other, then force will be less. The interactive force will be less. The force of attraction will be less. So we have a formula to be remembered, that is, these interactive forces between the atoms is directly proportional to 1 by r to the power 6. 1 by r to the power 6 in the sense, here force is inversely proportional to the radius. Okay, so the distance between the two atoms, if it is really close, then the force will be more. Obviously, if the distance is larger, force will be less. So that is how this term is given. Force is directly proportional to 1 by r to the power 6. So the radius is said to be really less, that means force will be more. Now this type of force between these non-polar molecules, here you see that they both are non-polar, noble gas atoms are taken here. So these interactive force between these noble gas atoms or the non-polar molecules depend on the polarizability of atoms. Now what do you mean by polarizability? That means the ease in which they can, arrange the electrons moving from different places. Now as I told here, the ease in which this particular atom made it move the electrons toward the right hand side, and here it was less. And this is what is polarizability. Okay, the ease in which the electrons can be moved from their original positions, developing charges, that is partial negative charge as well as partial positive charge given by delta. Okay, so if the atoms are said to be bigger, obviously the polarizability will be more. If the atoms are really smaller, then polarizability is less. So mainly this type of forces exhibit between the non-polar molecules. So they induce themselves, okay, the forces, and they unsymmetrically distort the atoms, or the electron charge cloud will be distorted and they become unsymmetrical. So this is about the dispersion or London forces. Okay, so this is not said to be a permanent effect. This happens in a short span of time, and that's why they are said to be the temporary effect. Remember this, these are said to be a temporary effect. It is not said to be permanent. As this happens in a short span of time, as electrons come towards one end and the charges are being formed, so this is said to be temporary effect. Okay. So the next one is the dipole forces. Now this is very easy. As you all know, dipole is nothing but there is polarity. Okay, there is partial charges which are being formed. Now this is exhibited by the molecules which have partial charges itself, partial negative charge and partial positive charge. So here dipole forces occur between the polar molecules. That is to be remembered. There it was non-polar molecules, whereas here that is dipole forces is exhibited by permanent polar molecules, permanent dipoles. Okay, for example, you have HCl. There are two molecules which are shown here. So HCl, another one is HCl. Obviously there is polarity, right? Because here chlorine is said to be electronegative when compared to hydrogen. So what happens here? Chlorine tends to pull the electrons towards itself, making it slightly negative, and the other one will be positive. So what happens here? Charges are being developed or dipole is being developed. So this happens between the polar molecules. Okay. So here also these polar molecules, what happens is that if one has a tendency to develop charges, the other one distorts the electron charge cloud and makes it slightly positive and negative. So between these HCl molecules there will be a force of attraction, and that is your dipole forces. Okay, very easy to be understood. So here the force, the interactive force also depends on the radii, that is the distance between the molecules. So it is given as 1 by r to the power 6, just like the other one, and also here it depends on the polarizability. Okay, so this is a second type of force which is very important, that is dipole forces. And the last one comes the dipole-induced dipole forces. Now here one is said to be the dipole molecule, okay, and the other one is said to be induced dipole forces. Now as you look at the diagram you get to know very easily. See here HCl molecule is present, which is said to be a permanent dipole molecule. So here there is a partial positive charge, here there is a partial negative charge, and you have a neutral molecule, that is non-polar molecule. Say you have a hydrogen atom or any noble gas atom. So here this is said to be a non-polar molecule, and here you have a polar molecule. So what happens? Here there is some force of attraction, and these forces of attraction are nothing but dipole-induced dipole forces. Now induced in the sense, here this particular polar molecule which has an electron charge cloud with partial positive and negative charges tries to distort this particular atom. Okay, that is non-polar atom, non-polar molecule. So they try distorting, and then they also form a partial negative as well as partial positive charge ends. So this is how they try inducing. So there is induced dipole. So this attracts the other molecule and tries distorting the electron charge cloud, forming a partial positive and negative charges. So this is how, that's why we say it is induced dipole. It originally doesn't have any dipole, but the other molecule will induce dipole to that non-polar molecule. Okay, so this is about the dipole-induced dipole forces. Here also the force depends on the radius. So it is equal to or directly proportional to 1 by r to the power 6. Okay, so this is about, and here the forces will be taking place, the attractive forces will be between the dipole molecules or the polar molecules and the non-polar molecules. Here it is between the polar molecules, and here it is between the non-polar molecules. So, see, when you look at the names itself, you will get to know between what kind of molecules are these interactions taking place. So, I hope you have understood this. The first one is dispersion or London forces. The second one is dipole forces. And the last one is dipole-induced dipole forces. So next we have a special type of dipole-dipole interaction. Now dipole-dipole in the sense, obviously there is permanent dipole molecules. But this is a special type of bonding, that is hydrogen bonding. Okay. Now hydrogen bonding occurs or it is exhibited by a hydrogen atom, okay, which is bonded to a highly electronegative atom. Highly electronegative. What do you mean by electronegative atoms? Those are the atoms which can pull the electrons toward themselves very easily and create partial positive and negative charges. Now for example, you have the hydrogen bond in between OH, where oxygen is said to be highly electronegative. Then you have nitrogen-hydrogen bond, where nitrogen is again highly electronegative. Then you have hydrogen-fluorine bonds. Okay, so here fluorine is said to be highly electronegative, right? So this hydrogen bonding occurs between a highly electronegative atom, most electronegative atom, and the hydrogen. Okay, very simple to understand. Now this particular hydrogen bonding has a very good application, that is, it helps in the structural determination of these proteins, nucleic acid. All these structural determinations can be done by the hydrogen bonding, by the study of hydrogen bonding, and also the properties can be studied, okay, by the use of this hydrogen bonding. Now this strength of this hydrogen bonding is actually dependent on, as I said, this happens between electronegative atom as well as hydrogen. Now what does electronegative atom have? They have lone pair of electrons, right? So these lone pair of electrons, the more number of lone pair electrons, the more negative they are, electronegative they are. So what happens to the bond which is formed? They become stronger. So the strength of hydrogen bond depends on what? The lone pair of electrons present in whom? They are present in electronegative atom. In the electronegative atom, okay, electronegative atom with your hydrogen. So mainly it depends on the lone pair of electrons. Here oxygen has how many lone pair of electrons? Nitrogen, fluorine. So it mainly depends on the number of lone pair of electrons present in the electronegative atom. So strength of hydrogen bond is actually determined by the interaction between lone pair of electrons as well as a hydrogen. So more the number of lone pair electrons, higher is the electronegativity, stronger is the hydrogen bond. So this is about the hydrogen bonding. For example, let me show you here hydrogen fluorine molecules, fluoride is present. So these molecules will have hydrogen bonding, okay. Let me show you with the dotted line, and then you have hydrogen fluorine molecules again. And then you have hydrogen bonding, then again hydrogen fluorine. So all these molecules are associated by themselves. By which bond? By the hydrogen bonding. So here in between these they will have covalent bond. Remember that. We are not talking about the covalent bonds nor the ionic bonds. Ionic are totally positive and negative charges. Here we are talking about partial positive charge and negative charge. We are not talking about the covalent bond too. It is between these molecules. Between these molecules there are some weak forces present. That is your intermolecular forces. And between these dipole molecules, what kind of bond? That is your hydrogen bond. So here this hydrogen has a partial positive charge. Your fluorine has a partial negative charge. So this has a force of attraction, and that's your hydrogen bond material. Okay, so again this will have a negative charge, this will have positive. Why negative charge? Because they are electronegative. They will have lone pair of electrons. So tendency to pull the electrons will be more. Obviously there are extra pair of electrons which makes them negative in nature, partially negative. So this is the hydrogen bonding between the dipole molecules. Okay, so we have studied about the different types of interactions and also about the hydrogen bonding. Now, as I said, intermolecular forces are nothing but they are both attractive and repulsive forces too between the atoms or molecules. Now, imagine you have a solid. Okay, I'll just take the example of duster. Here the atoms are tightly packed, we say. The particles are said to be tightly packed in solids. Why? Because they have great intermolecular forces of attraction. But if you try compressing this solid again, if I try compressing this duster, does it compress? No, right? They have already reached their limit wherein they are attracted too strongly. They cannot attract still more. Why? Because there are some repulsive forces present too. Okay, so molecules or atoms will just not have the attractive forces, but they also have repulsive forces between them. Okay, so molecules also exert repulsive forces. So they attain a limit where they cannot, stress on to compressibility again, not anymore. They are in their limits. Okay, that's why you see that solids and liquids are really hard to compress. They are at their limit. They have their forces of attraction, and what happens? Still, if you get the atoms closer, they are going to repel, and that's why you cannot compress these solids as well as liquids. So this is about the repulsive forces. So next, let us talk about the relationship between the intermolecular forces as well as the thermal energy. Now when you see this term thermal energy, it is nothing but the energy due to the motion of the particles or the movement of the particles, right? You have studied in your lower classes saying the kinetic energy is directly proportional to the temperature. Now as the temperature increases, okay, what happens to the kinetic energy of the particles? They also increase. The movement will be faster. If the temperature is lesser, obviously the kinetic energy will be lesser, movement also will be less, right? So this is the relationship between the thermal energy and the intermolecular forces. Let me talk about it. Now, when you talk about this thermal energy, as I said, they are directly proportional to the movement of the particles. Now, as you see that there is the three states, that is solid, liquid as well as gas. These three states are formed due to the balance between these intermolecular forces which helps them tightly as well as the thermal energy which keeps them away. So mainly you should remember that these three states are the balance between these two forces. One is the thermal energy as well as the intermolecular forces. Now mainly we are focusing on the relationship between these intermolecular forces and thermal energy. So talking about thermal energy, okay, what do? Here we try to keep them apart. The molecules will be moving apart, okay. Whereas intermolecular forces of attraction, what do? They try holding tightly, right. So there is attraction. So the molecules will come closer to each other. They will be held tightly. Whereas thermal energy, what do? We try to keep them apart. So remember, these both are like the opposite sides. Intermolecular forces get them closer and thermal energy keeps them apart. So this is to be remembered. Now if I take an example of the liquefaction of gases. Now you see that gases can be liquefied. How? By applying pressure. Gases are actually the freely spaced particles, correct? They are freely moving. What do? We try compressing them in order to make a liquid. Obviously we have to get them from gas to liquid state. So what do? We try compressing them by applying pressure. But just by applying pressure, okay, the molecules will come closer. But if you just reduce the pressure, again they will get back to gaseous state, right? So what do? We apply pressure too and we try cooling them. Why do we cool them? So that the movement of the particles will be lesser and they slowly come back to their original form and slowly they form liquids. Okay, so this is the main idea behind this thermal energy. So when you try liquefying gases, you not only apply pressure but you try cooling them too, so that their thermal energy will be lesser and they get back to liquid state. Okay, so this is the relationship between these intermolecular forces as well as the thermal energy. So if the intermolecular force is said to be really strong, imagine solid, the intermolecular forces are really strong. If you apply thermal energy onto them, obviously the thermal energy, the movement will be faster. Okay, so this idea you should have, children. And if the predominant, okay, if the predominance of intermolecular forces is said to be high, okay, obviously gases will have less intermolecular forces, then comes liquids, correct, and then comes solids, correct. If the intermolecular forces are said to be high, okay, from the gases they will have less intermolecular forces, then you have liquid, then you have solid, which have high intermolecular forces of attraction. Now if there is predominance of this thermal energy, what will happen? Can you write it? What will happen if there is predominance of thermal energy? How will be the states of matter then? Obviously from the solids, okay, if the solids will have lesser motion when compared to the intermolecular forces, as soon as we apply thermal energy, the the gaseous will have faster movement, right? The gases will have faster movement. So these arrows will be opposite to that of intermolecular forces. So if there is increase in thermal energy, obviously this has to be the arrows which has to be shown with respect to three states of matter. So the solids will have less thermal motion, then we have liquids, then we have gases. Okay. So these both are opposite to each other. Remember this. Okay. So this is the relationship between the thermal energy as well as the intermolecular forces. Remember that intermolecular forces tries to get them closer, whereas thermal motion or thermal energy tries to keep them apart.